The phrase tyranny of the majority is used in discussing systems of democracy and majority rule. It involves a scenario in which decisions made by a majority place its interests above those of an individual or minority group, constituting active oppression comparable to that of a tyrant or despot. In many cases a disliked ethnic, religious or racial group is deliberately penalized by the majority element acting through the democratic process. Supermajority rules, constitutional limits on the powers of a legislative body, and the introduction of a Bill of Rights have been used to counter the problem. A separation of powers may also be implemented to prevent the problem from happening internally in a government. A term used in classical and Hellenistic Greece for oppressive popular rule was ochlocracy. Tyranny meant rule by one man whether undesirable or not. The phrase tyranny of the majority was used by John Adams in 1788. The phrase gained prominence after its appearance in 1835 in Democracy in America, by Alexis de Tocqueville, where it is the title of a section. It was further popularized by John Stuart Mill, who cites Tocqueville, in On Liberty. The Federalist Papers refer to the broad concept, as in Federalist 10, first published in 1787, which speaks of the superior force of an interested and overbearing majority. The term was widely employed in mid-19th century America in conjunction with a series of moral questions that gave rise to organized minority groups in American political life. Lord Acton also used this term, saying, "The one pervading evil of democracy is the tyranny of the majority, or rather of that party, not always the majority, that succeeds, by force or fraud, in carrying elections." The concept itself was popular with Friedrich Nietzsche, and the phrase is used at least once in the first sequel to Human, All Too Human. Ayn Rand, objectivist philosopher and novelist, wrote against such tyranny, saying that individual rights are not subject to a public vote, and that the political function of rights is precisely to protect minorities from oppression by majorities. In 1965, Herbert Marcuse referred to the tyranny of the majority in his essay Repressive Tolerance on the idea of tolerance in advanced industrial society. He affirmed that tolerance is extended to policies, conditions, and modes of behavior which should not be tolerated because they are impeding, if not destroying, the chances of creating an existence without fear and misery. And that this sort of tolerance strengthens the tyranny of the majority against which authentic liberals protested. In 1994, legal scholar Lanny Guinier used the phrase as the title for a collection of law review articles. Public choice theory, the notion that, in a democracy, the greatest concern is that the majority will tyrannize and exploit diverse smaller interests, has been criticized by Manker Olson in The Logic of Collective Action, who argues instead that narrow and well-organized minorities are more likely to assert their interests over those of the majority. Olson argues that when the benefits of political action are spread over fewer agents, there is a stronger individual incentive to contribute to that political activity. Narrow groups, especially those who can reward active participation to their group goals, might therefore be able to dominate or distort political process, a process studied in public choice theory. Vote trading, anti-federalists of public choice theory point out that vote trading, also known as log-rolling, can protect minority interests from majorities in representative democratic bodies such as legislatures. They continue that direct democracy, such as statewide propositions on ballots, does not offer such protections. Concurrent majority, American Confederate secession was anchored by a version of subsidiarity, found within the doctrines of John C. Calhoun. Antebellum South Carolina utilized Calhoun's doctrines in the Old South as public policy, adopted from his theory of concurrent majority. This localism strategy was presented as a mechanism to circumvent Calhoun's perceived tyranny of the majority in the United States. Each state presumptively held the sovereign power to block federal laws that infringed upon states' rights, autonomously. Calhoun's policies directly influenced Southern public policy regarding slavery, and undermined the supremacy clause power granted to the federal government. The subsequent creation of the Confederate States of America catalyzed the American Civil War. 19th-century concurrent majority theories held logical counterbalances to standard tyranny of the majority harms originating from antiquity and onward. Essentially, illegitimate or temporary coalitions that held majority volume could disproportionately outweigh and hurt any significant minority, by nature and sheer volume. Calhoun's contemporary doctrine was presented as one of limitation within American democracy to prevent traditional tyranny, whether actual or imagined. See also, administrative law, an enemy of the people, argumentum ad populum, authoritarian personality, consensus, conformity, consociationalism, dictatorship of the proletariat, elective dictatorship, Enabling Act of 1933, general will, individual anarchism, majoritarianism, minoritarianism, minority rights, social anarchism, tragedy of the commons, utilitarianism. References. Further reading, Vogt, Carl G. Moral Minorities and the Making of American Democracy. New York, Oxford University Press. Alexis de Tocqueville on Tyranny of the Majority from Ed Citement from the National Endowment for the Humanities.